This is Michael Popok, Legal AF After Dark. Let's talk about the D.C. election interference case with Judge Chutkan. So much news there. She imposed a gag order on Donald Trump. She lifted a gag order on Donald Trump. She's thinking about putting it back on Donald Trump, but only after full briefing, and has probably ruled about the gag order by the time we get all this together. In addition to that, the D.C. court is now the place where Donald Trump is trying to argue that he gets to use now top secret and classified documents that he stole in the Mar-a-Lago case in his defense in this particular case. All that kind of shenanigans are analyzed in depth, and we call it out for what it is. We don't blow smoke or sunshine on Legal AF, the leading podcast of its type at the intersection of law, politics, and justice on the MeidasTouch network. Here's a clip of this Saturday's edition with Ben, Meiselas, and me, Michael Popok. Take a listen.
The various cases, especially what's going on in Washington, D.C. I want to break down a lot, or rather pass the proverbial Legal AF football to Michael Popok, because we've got Mark Meadows being confirmed to have accepted an immunity deal based on all reports. Popok, you had called that when the indictment was unsealed. You have Judge Chutkan putting Donald Trump on the spot saying, you want this to be televised? Okay, just let me know in a minute order. You've got Donald Trump filing multiple frivolous motions to dismiss. You've got Trump trying to blackmail or graymail the United States government with classified documents. And you've got Jack Smith just calling out how frivolous Trump's discovery motions are. I'll let you take the first big bite out of this Legal AF apple.
Thank you, Ben. The comments you made about the lawyers, though, reminds me of a very famous quote by John Dean in Watergate, the lawyer for Donald Trump, for Richard Nixon, who actually went to jail as well. In the 1973 Senate Watergate hearing, he said, quote, "How in God's name could so many lawyers get involved in something like this?" Talking about himself and others. Same thing here. I mean, you got all the lawyers, and there's still more to come in Georgia who have been indicted, yet have not yet pled. And then you've got the lawyers who are still currently representing Donald Trump, but doing so really to do no great service to the legal profession, let alone to Donald Trump's side. A lot going on in D.C. You just outlined. We got Meadows, Judge Chutkan about whether this is going to be televised. Those motions to dismiss the gag order and the classified documents. Let's start with Meadows. Meadows is very, very interesting, and we're trying to sort it out. And Karen and I, on the weekend, a midweek edition, we're trying to sort it out too about the mismatch that we've seen between him being indicted in Georgia, not cooperating there, not even being an offer to plea deal, and kicking and screaming, trying to take the case to federal court. And, Jack Smith save me, or whatever those motions were supposed to be all about, that all got denied. And then him, as we suspected, as soon as we saw the summer indictment of Donald Trump in August, we suspected that where was Mark Meadows? We looked through pages upon pages, hundreds of allegations in the 4 conspiracy counts against one defendant and Donald Trump before Judge Chutkan. We said, where's Meadows? I mean, there's not even things that sort of where we know he was present, and they seem to be purposefully excised from the text of the indictment. Why? And we could only conclude, as you and I did, that Meadows was cooperating in some way, shape, or form. And now we know there was at least a limited cooperation, went through the chief judge of the D.C. Circuit Court in grand juries. He was given Fifth Amendment privilege for the purposes of testifying before the grand jury. And there's also reporting that Mark Meadows also at least met with the prosecutors 2 or 3 times related to his testimony, and that he's testified or provided evidence already about the big lie and the big fix, and the fact that he was one of the people telling Donald Trump that there was no outcome determinative fraud in the election at all, that he was repulsed and told Donald Trump so when Donald Trump declared himself the victor on the night of the election before all of the other ballots were counted, including absentee ballots and the like, and military ballots. But we also know all the other things that Mark Meadows was involved with, which is really everything. The gatekeeper in the White House, involved with coordinating with the campaign of Trump to cling to power, coordinating the fake electors, and making sure that they all got presented to Mike Pence, the pressure campaign against Mike Pence, the document movement from the White House to Mar-a-Lago and to Bedminster. I mean, Mark Meadows, him burning documents in his own fireplace, according to his right-hand person, Cassidy Hutchinson. I mean, Mark Meadows has a lot of things that he can say, but yet he still, while he wasn't indicted and wasn't even listed as an unindicted co-conspirator, because there's 6 of those and none of those are named Mark Meadows in the Chutkan indictment and the Jack Smith indictment, we're like, well, but what's going on? He got indicted in Georgia. How is he's not completely fully cooperating with Jack Smith? Is there still exposure there? The bad news for Donald Trump is that Mark Meadows, who he can't claim he doesn't know or doesn't remember, and can't claim as a liar because every other time he said Mark Meadows was a good guy, a courageous guy, a trustworthy guy. That's why he made him his chief of staff. This is not a good thing in Trump world for Mark Meadows to be cooperating in any way, shape, and form with Jack Smith. The question is he also going to cooperate ultimately with Fani Willis? Fani has her little group of 4 cooperating witnesses, including 3 former Trump lawyers, which Jack Smith, I'm sure, is going to try to get over to his side to cooperate with him, or they're going to get indicted or convicted or indicted. So you got that going on, but she's got Meadows by the short hairs, while Jack Smith is still trying to get him to play well inside the sandbox against, and help him with his case in D.C. So but we have the confirmation now that he did testify. The gag order issue is coming to a head. We're going to get a filing right before we go on the airtime, probably that'll complete the briefing about whether that gag order that Judge Chutkan temporarily lifted for about 2 weeks, just long enough for Donald Trump to do more bad things that got used against him in real time in the filing by the Department of Justice. I mean, they filed things and put in there things that had happened earlier in the day in New York, including the violation of the gag order earlier in the week in the 60 Minutes Australia, Anthony Pratt, billionaire Australian who was secretly recorded against Donald Trump, calling him a mobster and a punk. All of those things ended up in the brief that was filed by the Department of Justice to encourage Judge Chutkan not just to reimpose her gag order, to stop him from using violent rhetoric, targeting prosecutors and witnesses, but to strengthen the conditions of his release from jail so that if he does it again and tries to attack Mark Meadows, which was also in the briefing by the Department of Justice, or any other witness that he goes after, that she revoke the conditions and find that they've been violated of his release, and therefore another pathway to jail for Donald Trump. So Donald Trump may have gotten some political mileage for a couple of weeks, shaking his tambourine, trying to raise money by going back and calling Jack Smith a thug again and attacking people and violating the gag order in New York. But the chickens are all coming home to roost now, and they're all being used as evidence against him to not only reimpose the gag order, but to have another tripwire for him to maybe end up in jail. You want to take the classified document issue, the gray mail? That's really interesting.
Yeah, we've heard about blackmail in court proceedings involving classified documents. We call it gray mail, where a criminal defendant tries to inject classified documents that they either stole or are aware of and says, well, if you continue to prosecute me, I'm going to have to talk about some classified information that could be very damaging to you, government, and very damaging to the American people. Look, court proceedings take place in public, right? And so at some point, what you have to deal with is balance the national security interest attendant to classified information. And a criminal defendant has constitutional rights and due process rights to get discovery material that may be relevant or exculpatory in the case. And so Donald Trump's making an argument, not in the Southern District of Florida case. Obviously, that one involves classified documents that Donald Trump stole, where he can engage in a lot of gray mail there. But in Washington, D.C., Donald Trump says, you know what we really need to talk about in this case that are going to be really important to my defense? We need to really talk about America's international assessments about Russia and Iran and China and foreign government interference, which Donald Trump may have disagreed with his own intelligence community, because Donald Trump says he wants to make that a major part of his defense. And folks, it's a hard issue, I guess, to unpack, although I think I just did it fairly easily. But the egregious nature of this should be front page news. You hear it here on Legal AF, of course, but that's an actual motion that Donald Trump brought. And he's using coded language a little bit, but if you know what he's trying to do here, it is obvious what he is saying by his disagreements with the intelligence community's assessment about election security. Our intelligence community believed that there were massive threats from Russia, from Iran, from Saudi Arabia, from China trying to interfere with our election and trying to basically help Donald Trump win. Donald Trump is saying his disagreement with that is somehow relevant to his defense in Washington, D.C. It isn't. What he's really saying is for 2024, he wants our enemies to learn about those security assessments that were done by our intelligence community by trying to put that into evidence in his case and thereby graymail the Department of Justice and government into being afraid to try this case publicly. Like, how heinous is that? And that relates to a motion Donald Trump filed about challenging the CIPA, Classified Information Procedures Act, redactions and withholding of documents that Special Counsel Jack Smith does not want to produce. And under CIPA, the Classified Information Procedures Act, Special Counsel Jack Smith's able to have an ex parte, under seal and in camera hearing with the judge without Trump basically be like, look, these documents are not important, they're not relevant, and they're very dangerous if they're released. And Trump's arguing, nope, make them all available. Those are major parts of my defense. So you see the games Donald Trump's playing there. Judge Chutkin also made the brilliant move in a minute order saying, okay, Donald Trump, I hear you want this case to be public. That's what you're talking about to the public. So here's the minute order. Defendants' combined response, if any, to the Media Coalition's application for audiovisual access to criminal trial proceedings. And basically, she asks Donald Trump what his view is about the media's request to televise and make this trial available publicly. So putting Donald Trump on the spot here where Trump's going to have to respond if he wants this case to be televised. He says that in his speeches, but we know the propaganda from the speeches and the legacy media and the right-wing propaganda machines pump out is different than what goes on in the case. And we've made it our mission here on Legal AF with this rapidly expanding Legal AF community that you have all created to say, let's just talk about the facts. Let's talk about the evidence, because facts and evidence and what's going on in the courtroom, you know what? That doesn't have a political party. We don't want to be lied to. We don't want to be played here at the Legal AF community, at the Meidas Mighty community, and in the American community. We don't, and across the world, we don't want to be played. So tell us the facts and show us what's actually going on in court. That is one of our main missions here. And also one of the things Special Counsel Jack Smith pointed out as well is Donald Trump's lawyers made this like ridiculous motion where they wanted to subpoena the January 6th committee because they said that which has been disbanded by Republicans, saying they destroyed millions of records. Donald Trump posted on social media that the January 6th committee destroyed Donald Trump destroyed all of its records, and that therefore the case must be dismissed against him. First off, the records are available online. They're archived online. The Republicans shut down the official government archive for it, so the archive had to be moved, but it's available online right now. There are certain documents which are not on that archive, which are highly sensitive, confidential documents, but those were turned over when? Back in August by Special Counsel Jack Smith. Not only did Special Counsel Jack Smith turn those over, he put them in alphabetical order by witness. There was also other kind of like maps about where you can go to find these documents. He dummy-proofed it for Trump's lawyers, and Special Counsel Jack Smith explained to the judge in Trump's conspiratorial-laden motion filed by his lawyers. Jack Smith's like, okay, we don't know what he's talking about. We've turned over he has these records. He has all of the records. And then what Jack Smith pointed out is this footnote by Donald Trump's lawyers where they said, this is a good faith motion, but we have not reviewed all of the records. So special counsel Jack Smith goes, yeah, before you go and write a motion, maybe review the records. And by the way, special counsel Jack Smith says this also. If you didn't want to review your records, if that was too hard for you, before you filed this thing, maybe give us a phone call and say, hey, is it in there? And then we would have told you where it is, and we would have helped facilitate that. But no, you rather just file this complete bogus motion with the judge to tarnish the January 6th committee. And this is where I always say to kind of, the MAGA Republicans, people who are still MAGA, like, you just must love being lied to. You just must love it. Like, you must love being treated like crap and being treated so disrespectfully. Like, it must give you joy to just be talked to and lied to all of the time, because there are some things that are just so easy to disprove. Okay, really? He didn't get the documents? Well, here they are. They're right there. Now what? Oh, well, no. Okay, well, you can go down that rabbit hole of digging deeper and being further lied to through the depths of depravity. But we here at Legal AF and the Meidas Mighty, we care about the truth first and foremost, beyond political allegiance and party. Tell me the facts. Tell me the evidence.
All right. If you like that kind of hard-hitting analysis, no holds barred, and we tell you the truth, not blowing smoke or sunshine, you came to the right place. Legal AF every Wednesday night and Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, exclusively on the MeidasTouch network. Help that network. It's grassroots. No outside investors. Help it get to 2 million free subscribers. It's so close. It's got 1.7 million and change right now. Speaking of change, you can make a difference by getting involved with the Meidas movement and Legal AF. So until our next podcast and on audio version, and until my next hot take, this is Michael Popok of Legal AF.
Hey, Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram at MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.